The whole console war thing, it's nothing new. To be honest with you, I mean, I'm in my 30s. I've been gaming since the 1980s. And I have to say, I first took note of the console war probably in the late 80s when the Sega Genesis came out and they started that whole Genesis does what Nintendo don't sort of ad campaign. And, the Genesis was that 16-bit machine, and the NES was, still the thing at the time, and the Super Nintendo wasn't out yet. So there was this kind of back and forth. And then, of course, when the Super Nintendo did launch, there was a huge back and forth between the Super Nintendo and the Sega Genesis. And every generation since, there's always been this huge kind of back and forth between all the heavy players. And it's nothing new. It's absolutely nothing new. And it actually drives the industry quite well. Now, we're seeing some interesting stuff. IGN actually did a very, very interesting thing, and Forbes followed up on it, actually, Forbes, the site. And this is going to be a fun conversation to have today, I can guarantee it. What's up, everybody? Crapgamer here with Crapgamer Reviews, back with yet another video. Thank you so much for checking it out. I appreciate it. Please like, share, subscribe. I would appreciate that as well. Thank you to all the new subscribers, old subscribers, and everyone in between. You guys rock. So, again, console wars. Fun, right? I mean, don't take them too seriously. They are kind of what they are. But I have a really good time with them. I think that if you can get all consoles, that's great. If you can't, then, get the one that's going to offer you the most value and the most games and the most things you actually want to play. With that being said, how did this generation end, right? It ended with the PlayStation 4 absolutely destroying the Xbox One. And why was that? Well, lots of reasons. I mean, I think some of the reasons changed along the way. Obviously, the original idea of the Xbox One with the 24-hour check-in, the DRM, the thought of no used games or not being able to trade games, the idea that, the idea that Microsoft was trying to take some of your gamer rights away and things like that, that really impacted Microsoft. The fact that you had a $100 more expensive console that was less powerful than your competitor and also forcing Kinect on people who didn't really want it and things like that. Obviously, they completely did a turnaround on that and all those stances and ended up, basically having every advantage you can think of. So why did they still lose? Well, I always say, especially after the first few years, they lost because there was really no reason to own one. Aside from, you can play all their exclusives on PC, but even aside from that, if you take that into account, they didn't really have any killer apps that made you want to say, oh, hey, man, I got to get me an Xbox One. So that was a real problem. They didn't have any new IP. They haven't announced a new AAA IP since 2015, which is about probably when they actually gave up on this generation as a whole. But with that being said, IGN, who's the biggest gaming site in the world, keeps running these polls, right? And again, a lot of people keep saying Microsoft really caught up ground. Next gen, they're going to do much better, much better, much better. They're doing everything right. They're doing everything right. I kind of agree with that they're doing things right, but I don't necessarily agree that they're actually catching up ground. So I will link this in the article, in the description below. If you're new to the channel, I always link the news sources in the description below. If it's opinion, I don't need a source for that. If it's a rumor or leak, I will link an opinion. I will link that if that's possible. But if it's somebody who told me something in confidence, then obviously I can't do that. So a lot of people want to see how much ground Microsoft has actually made up over the Xbox One generation, and there was a bunch of series of recent IGN polls kind of put everything into perspective. There's two different polls from IGN on the topic. There's one way back in March before the reveals, which show the PS5 was winning 43.3%. All in on Xbox Series X was at 25.7%. Buying both, 12.8%. Undecided, 8%. Sticking the Switch, 7.8 or 7.9, whatever's cheapest, 2.2%. So there's that. And, that's very interesting because, 43% to 25%. So you might go, very interesting. You know what I mean? In the latest one, the PlayStation 5 is up to almost 55%, and the Xbox Series X is down to 21%, and both at 11.1%. So basically, 65% or almost 66% are planning on getting a PS5. Right? Like as a whole, even if you're getting both, that's still an incredible number. And over 50,000 people voted in this. And I know that's still a small sample of, the amount of people that actually do game. But it's very interesting when you see that because even like this article in Forbes says, is the first thing you notice is that confidence is increased in the PS5 from the first one and decreased from the Xbox Series X from the first poll. But what he sees more than anything are the ratios. They look very familiar because the available sales data actually has the PS4 at 110.4 million units sold, while its estimated Xbox One has 46.9 million, even though Microsoft has stopped reporting official numbers. By doing that, it means the PS4 has outsold Xbox One by 2.36 times. Take that number from the most recent IGN poll, 54.1% to 21.6%, and without actual sales numbers, at that ratio, you would get a PS5 outselling the Xbox Series X by 2.50 times, which is even higher than what it did this past generation. So I've been telling people that are really cocky and thinking Xbox is going to just go all out and destroy Sony. It's really not probably going to be the thing that's going to happen. And what's funny about this is because Paul Tassie's doing the article here from Forbes, and he says it's kind of amazing to him because unlike the rollout of the Xbox One with the disastrous ties to Kinect and disc ownership, there's been no controversies with the Series X. But what we do know about it, it has a lot of strengths like a clear power advantage over PS5 and a launch title in the form of Halo Infinite, while Sony has a somewhat less powerful system and it isn't launching with a high-profile game like that. But although I think Spider-Man is pretty high-profile. It's also possibly skewed in Xbox's favor, given that it's a US-based poll and PlayStation outperforms Xbox to an even greater degree internationally. So this is what I've also been saying. So this poll is in the US. Now, in the US, the PlayStation 4 only has about a 5 million advantage in the US. So the fact that it's getting such high, advantages in these polls, in this particular instance, really tells you kind of everything you need to know. And to be honest with you, I find that to be pretty fascinating, because outside of like the UK and the North America, Xbox doesn't really exist. Some people go, oh, well, I own an Xbox and I live here. Well, I'm not saying that nobody factually owns an Xbox in some of these other places. I'm saying the majority, and I'm talking huge majority, like 90% own a PlayStation instead of an Xbox. So you're seeing these huge things. So according to this, it's brand loyalty and confidence in the future. Players picked Sony this generation seem satisfied with that purchase, and there's no reason to hop ship to Xbox, despite the reveal of the Xbox Series X not falling on its face or really doing anything close to that. But we might actually see a few Xbox devotees switch sides due to how the past generation went, or because their friends own PlayStation, a snowball effect which could account for the gap seen in the polling. But there does not seem to be a mass shift coming where suddenly we'll go back to the days of the PS3 and Xbox 360 where sales were even close. Microsoft says they don't care about console sales and just want the ecosystem to thrive, whether that's playing Game Pass titles on PC or xCloud or wherever. And he believes that to a certain extent, but as if Microsoft can convince someone to get Game Pass for an entire next-generation console, that's essentially $1 equivalent of them buying at least 2 more consoles. But this is his opinion, by the way, and I share this opinion. He doesn't think they enjoy Sony outselling them, and it goes to show how much work still lays ahead of them. There's a lot of work that could still be revealed. They could change polls, like Microsoft obviously has their first-party game showcase on the 23rd, and it could be very impressive. Both systems have failed to announce their price yet. So it's going to be very interesting to see what happens with the pricing and stuff like that. But again, I pointed this out. I was like, okay, think about this. Microsoft doesn't care about, they honestly do not care about, the sales, according to them anyway. But at the same time, they've had this huge advantage. A lot of people, fans and stuff like that, will tell me, oh, Xbox is really going to pull it together this time. Xbox is going to do this. Xbox is going to do that. And I'm like, are they really? Like, honestly, if you think about it, for the past 3+ years, they've had the power. They've had the most powerful console, the least expensive console. They have Xbox Game Pass, putting exclusives in there day one. But we're in the middle of a 14-month drought when it comes to AAA exclusives, so there's that. They have game sharing, they have game gifting, they have Play Anywhere, they have crossplay. Like literally, all these things are designed to kind of maybe take things away from PlayStation, but PlayStations are still selling in record numbers, and Xboxes aren't. Xboxes, looks like they might even have discontinued the Xbox according to some rumors. All of them, the S, the SAD, the X, Xbox Ones, and in preparation for the next generation. And if that's so, then they end this generation at 40 to 45 million consoles sold, 46 million consoles sold. So that's not great coming off of like 90 million Xbox 360 sold. And even though they are doing a lot of these things, backwards compatibility, right? Like they've had all this stuff for years and years, and it hasn't turned anything around. So what can turn things around? Like that's the thing that I would kind of question and go, well, you know, if it really comes down to it, what's going to turn things around for Microsoft? Like if all this stuff that they're doing, you know, isn't turning things around, then what will? The truth of the matter is this: probably nothing, right? Like no matter what Microsoft does, the Xbox 360, the reason why it did as well as it did, it launched a year early. They really had a focus on buying and, you know, providing exclusive content all over. I mean, Blue Dragon, Lost Odyssey, Gears of War was something that they bought. Halo was still in its prime. You know, that's where they introduced, like, Forza Motorsport 3 and 4 were the best in the series. That's the first Forza Horizon game when that came out. Witcher 2 was a console exclusive. Alan Wake, Mass Effect was exclusive. BioShock 1 was exclusive for a year. They really went all out and went after Sony, and it showed. And now there's this situation where we're starting to see, you know, where Sony and Microsoft, it should be a closer battle. I'm the first to admit it should be. And if Microsoft does a great show and prices things right, it could still be a battle. But I just don't think that 110, 115 million people are going to abandon PlayStation ecosystem and their games to switch to Xbox. I don't think it's really going to work that way. You know, I really do honestly feel like, you know, and this isn't really a bad, you know, them going, oh, well, Xbox sucks, because I think Xbox has done a lot right. I just feel like Xbox maybe, you know, people just underestimate the power of PlayStation, you know, when it comes to that worldwide appeal. So it's going to be very interesting. Sony hasn't done, you know, all they did was show a little bit of games, and that gets people excited. You know, that's how that works. Here, the funny thing is, Xbox showed off the Series X last year, mind you, and we still haven't really seen anything running on it. Where PlayStation was a little bit late in announcing their stuff, and then just announced some games. So they've actually showed gameplay on the PS5 before Microsoft showed their own stuff on the Xbox Series X. It's wild. It's crazy to think about. But I would love your thoughts and opinions on this. I will link it below. Let me know what you think. If you want to hit me up on Twitter at @_Crapgamer, Xbox Live, MOH Crapgamer, PSN just Crapgamer. As always, thank you so much for taking time out to watch one of my videos. I really do appreciate it. It does mean a lot to me. I'm very thankful for you guys, and it means a lot that you watch my stuff. So thank you so much. Please have a fantastic day. Rack 'em up. Game on. Crapgamer out.
Unscripted.